SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I went to
Hello, good morning. Welcome in to Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV, of course, on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations. Thanks for being with us, for starting your Tuesday morning with us. Today, the 28th of April, 2026. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Good morning. Hello, Lance.
Good morning, RC.
Shaking, bud.
Oh, man, I'm ready to go.
Are you?
It's Tuesday, yeah. There's a big game today, right? I mean, on the horizon, I think. I'm always
Big
excited
game.
when
What are you talking about?
when Ole Miss and State get together.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'm
Governor's
always
Cup's tonight.
Man, I always get excited about that one. I'm not going to make it. I'll watch it. But, I mean, being a Tuesday, we got to get up and do this a little early, so I'm not sure I'm going to run over there. But, man, looking forward to it. Always
I understand.
When you wake up in the morning, you always got that one thing that you go, all right, today, that's the day, Keeps you motivated.
Yeah. And most mornings, I'm not going to say that I just, pop out of bed.
Yeah.
But most mornings I get up. Yeah, kind of hit the snooze bar a time or two and get up, get rolling, whatever. And, man, it was hard this morning. Hey, it's just one of those days. Thunder kind of rumbling outside, a little bit of rain. There's a thunderstorm warning, and sometimes you'd just want to pull the covers back up around you and not do it.
Oh, man, yeah.
Man, it was tough this morning.
Oh, deer camp used to be like that. I mean, we had
really?
We had a metal roof before we had to redo it once we had to rebuild the cabin after those rolling fork storms and all that.
Right, the floods.
Forever and ever. Well, the tornado, we had a tornado hit
that's
it.
right.
Yeah, just
Okay.
absolutely split it down the middle. So rebuilt it, but used shingles this last time because the guy was like, well, this thing ain't square enough to put on metal. I was like, oh, if you say so.
You're like, buddy, it's been metal for longer than you've been doing
exactly.
this.
So we went back with with shingles, but the metal roof, when it would be raining, early in the morning too, there was no motivation to get up and go do anything. You just hear tink, 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 tink. You're like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
You want me to get in a deer stand with it doing this?
People be going out left and right. I was like, nah. My dad didn't even worry about asking me after a while in those days.
That's right. Yeah. But we are, here we are. We're glad to be together, glad to be with you. And we might have to be on the struggle bus for again. Nothing that first cup and a half of coffee won't take care of. Oh. Sorry, the coffee's good this morning.
Yeah. When it's hard to get up, and I'll be honest, I kind of crawl out of the bed like a bear after hibernation about every morning, so don't feel bad. It takes a little bit to get going.
You have to kind of get yourself out, and it's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, after I hit the cold spot on the shower, just put it on as cold as it'll go for a few seconds, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Yeah, that usually gets me going. So,
do you start warm and then back it to cold, or you go vice versa?
Usually, I'll go with warm to start, and then I'll shock my body pretty good with that cold water, and that no matter what mood I'm in, that usually is the jolt of electricity I need.
That'll get you going, no question.
In the winter now, that's when it's real fun,
Oh.
Yeah. You're like, I got to get out of bed and do this? No.
Forget about it.
Once it's over with.
Forget about it.
It's all right after it's over with, though.
Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Clarksdale. High of about 79 for you today. Lows in the mid-60s. Cloudy, mainly humid. Strong chance of thunderstorms today, although scattered. Storms may bring heavy downpours, hail, even gusty winds with an isolated tornado risk. So there's that for Clarksdale. Macon, Mississippi, you're going to be about 80 degrees today for your high. Cloudy and humid with thunderstorms likely, especially this afternoon and evening. Possible strong storms with gusty winds and heavy rain. Not quite as warm as it's been the last few days in Macon, but still going to be muggy. Collins, Mississippi, 84 degrees for your high today. Cloudy with a good chance, about 70% of an afternoon thunderstorm. You've also got that chance. I think you're seeing a theme here today across the state of Mississippi. Finally in Gulfport, a high of 82, a mix of clouds and sun with low chances of rain, showers, thunderstorms. Less severe risk than not only some of the inland areas, but certainly some of the areas to the north. So overall, a frontal system bringing widespread thunderstorm chances across much of the state of Mississippi, with the strongest and most severe risk more in the northern and central parts of the state. Be careful today. We yesterday had the anniversary of that supercell, super tornado breakout back in 2011. Doesn't look like we're going to deal with anything like that, but could have some winds and some hail, and we'll just keep an eye out. Be careful. Raining there at all yet, Lance?
No, thank goodness. It's so humid though. You know, almost all yesterday it acted like it wanted to, and then it didn't. And then most of the evening, real windy, extremely humid most of the evening until probably early morning. Then when I got up today, it was just real humid. So it definitely feels like something's brewing. But yeah, hopefully it won't be too bad.
I sat outside just kind of on the back porch last night for a while, and it was breezy, which sometimes kind of knocks back the humidity, but it wasn't that. It was like, no, that
I kind of felt the same way.
A glass of tea is just sweating as fast and as much as it can sweat.
I use the old Solo cup for tea a lot of times, and the ice did not last, and it was 10, 11 o'clock at night, so it kept melting down. I think, man, I need to go get me some more ice in this thing. So yeah, it may temperature wise. It feels a little warmer. I think it's stickier than it actually is.
Styrofoam.
You go with styrofoam. I do that with the coffee here. Love a good old styrofoam cup. What does it take? About 4,000 years to break them down? We can use those forever.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there is an environmental issue, but...
they've been around forever, though.
Yeah. 24-ounce styrofoam also
nice.
is not the 16, the 24.
That's the big daddy there.
Jessica Alba, I order them by the case. Literally order 500 at a time. Jessica Alba was born on this day in 1981, the American actress with lots and lots of film credits to her name. Entrepreneur as well. She launched a company called The Honest Company. It's products that are supposed to be good for babies and kids without lots of additives and extras in there. I think it's been quite successful for Jessica Alba. Penelope Cruz was born in 1974, the Oscar-winning Spanish actress. How about Jay Leno, born in 1950, the legendary comedian, former host of The Tonight Show, and car enthusiast.
And he keeps the denim cool, you know what I'm saying? Like he rocks the denim vest, denim shirt, and denim pants.
He is a denim on denim guy.
I love it. When you have your look, you stick with it. Go timeless
with it. Why
beauty, right?
I think denim's got to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I wear jeans every day, just about.
Well, I don't. Yeah,
but not like denim shirts.
Jeans ever. I'm talking about the shirts. I mean, you see more of those.
Yeah, I got a couple of them. I just don't ever break them out. They're not that comfortable to me,
Really?
Yeah, everything's so lightweight.
Clearly, Jay Leno thinks so.
Yeah, he likes that heavy duty, worker denim.
Yeah,
he's out there working on those cars. You got to have something to wipe your hands on and stuff.
Anne Margaret, born on this day in 1941, the Swedish-American actress and dancer. Bye Bye Birdie, Carnal Knowledge, Grumpy Old Men. Quite the career for Anne Margaret. Bridget Moynihan, born today in 1971. She was in Blue Bloods and other things, but I suppose Bridget Moynihan is most famous for having married and then been left by Tom Brady.
Oh, okay.
No?
I don't remember that, but I'm sure it happened.
Yeah. Kid together?
Okay.
I think they co-parented okay along the way. I don't know that. I mean, my guess is I don't know.
It's hard to keep up with celebrity, marriages and divorces, and so it seems like it's a full-time kind of gig.
Yeah, well, Brady was pretty high profile. So he was Bridget Moynihan, and then was obviously Giselle. And I mean, I don't know now. You're right. I would agree at this point. Whatever Tom Brady's romantic interests are, I neither really know nor care. But anyway,
okay.
Yeah. Drew Scott, born in 1978. He's one of the Property Brothers. If you are an HGTV person, you know who I'm talking about. He and twin brother Jonathan host that show together. Fifth President of the United States, James Monroe, was born on this day in 1758, as was the author of the classic To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee, 1926. Saddam Hussein, born in 1937, Oscar Schindler in 1908, and Ferruccio Lamborghini, born in 1916. Just getting started with you. Quick time out. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning from the Venable Glass.
Stay social during the show at SuperTalk Mississippi on Facebook. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Keep everything in the farm. Upset in every way. The dogs begin to bark.
We have a really busy morning, such that I don't know how I'm going to get everything in. I don't know how we are going to get everything in and discuss everything. But man, I heard the two best things that I've heard in a long time on the interwebs last night on the old X platform. This one's quick, so I'll give it to you right now. Ilhan Omar.
To detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI. The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
One more.
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
That's good stuff there.
Do you want to hear it one more time?
Please, let's play it back all day, man.
During World War XI.
Why you don't?
Who among us?
We could all make that mistake.
We could. We don't, but we could.
Well, that was part of my argument, a couple of weeks ago when I stated I don't really like the fact that we have members of Congress that, have dual citizenships and we're not native born, and but there's no problem with that. Obviously, they really know their history well. So that's a great example of the problems right there that I foresee coming.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite cabinet member?
Like of all time?
Current administration. Okay. Current administration. Favorite member of the cabinet?
I don't think so.
I think Scott Bessent was my favorite. And he hasn't done anything to demote himself. But I think Lee Zeldin is my guy now from the EPA.
There's some solid ones. I'd like Zeldin, Bessent. You never know what Blanche is going to do, but Burgum, Secretary of the Interior, I've always been a big fan of his when he was running. So Doug Collins has seemingly done a good job. Duffy with transportation, who we had on this show.
Yeah, I like Duffy a lot.
So there's some great people in there. Yeah, and then Tulsi Gabbard, and it looks like a good group.
The dismantling without ever raising his voice simply because facts were on his side yesterday of the purple-haired Rose DeLaura by Lee Zeldin of the EPA was spectacular. You know what? I can't do that and then not play it. I guess I got to bring it up for you if I can find it. We'll do that in a little bit. I promise I'll play it for you this morning. Captain James Cook landed in Australia on this day in 1770. Aboard the HMS Endeavour, he made the first recorded European landing on the east coast of Australia at Botany Bay.
I think that's what they called it right then, too, Botany Bay. They had that one canned up and ready to go.
Somebody grab a bottle of Captain Morgan. We're at Botany Bay. Let's celebrate, fellas.
The dude just jumps off the ship after his knee was up, bottle of rum in hand.
Yes.
Big pirate hat with the feather. Yeah, love it.
Maryland became the seventh state to ratify the Constitution of the United States of America on this day in 1788. It helped pave the way, of course, for the new U.S. government. 1789, you had a mutiny on the HMS Bounty. Fletcher Christian leading one against Captain William Bligh in the South Pacific. Bad news for Bligh. He and his loyal crew were set adrift.
Yeah.
The event becomes legendary in naval history.
They settled on Pitcairn Island, too. That's where the whole group of them that actually lived stayed there and raised families. And Mel Gibson and Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony, and the Mutiny on the Bounty. Great movie.
Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Mm-hmm. He's crazy in that one, too, man. He goes lunatic crazy as the captain, so he kind of helps, instigate some of the mutiny himself.
Benito Mussolini and his mistress, Clara Petacci, captured and executed by Italian partisans near Lake Como as World War II ended in Europe. Their bodies later displayed in Milan.
Yeah, those you don't want to get caught by the partisans, like anywhere.
I don't think after being captured and killed, having your body displayed is what you long for either.
No, that's what I'm saying. Those folks are, the partisans are usually pretty upset at you.
Yeah.
That's one of their partisans. They come out of the mountains and everything, and we can go get them now. And they're going to definitely take advantage of the display,
Boxing champ Muhammad Ali refused military service during the Vietnam War on this day in 1967 on religious grounds. As a result, he is stripped of his heavyweight title. Charles de Gaulle, the longtime president of France, lost a referendum, and so he stepped down as the leader of the country, ending his presidency. That was in 1969. In 1996, man, I vaguely remember this. The Port Arthur massacre in Australia. Martin Bryant killed 35 people in a mass shooting in Tasmania. It became Australia's deadliest mass shooting ever and led to rapid, major national gun control reforms.
Yeah, it's hard to even have a gun there, I believe.
Yeah. Dennis Tito in 2001 became the world's first space tourist, launching aboard a Russian rocket to the International Space Station.
Like what do you think the meal was? On the trip up there. I mean, if you're a billionaire.
Caviar.
He is Russian, that's right. Caviar and vodka. Good to go.
There you go. Yesterday, an Appropriations Committee meeting, Lee Zeldin being asked questions by the purple-haired Rose DeLauro from California.
When climate change is flooding our streets, poisoning our air, driving up health care and disaster costs, how can the EPA justify abandoning that duty to protect Americans to appease polluters under the false flag of economic growth?
Following the law, Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, where does it say anything about fighting global climate change? Loper Bright, Supreme Court case, you familiar with it?
No, I maybe others are. I'm not, but let me ask.
But that's really important. As a member of Congress, Loper Bright says that we, as an agency, don't have the authority to get creative. If Section 202 of the Clean Air Act,
no, but you don't have. Excuse me, you do not have the right to say climate change does not exist. That it's a hoax, and that's where this administration is coming from.
I understand you're upset that you don't know what Loper Bright is. Do you know what the major policies doctrine is?
I'm upset because
you know what the major policies doctrine is.
You know what, let me just
You're a member of Congress. You should know.
Well, you have moved from someone who defended the environment to all of a sudden
being very defensive about not knowing the two biggest landmark Supreme Court cases of the last year with regards to your question.
You are very defensive about changing your policy and your positions with regard to the environment.
Okay.
Now, you just tell
me. Do you want me to tell you what the two biggest Supreme Court cases are of the last few years?
This is what I want you
Michigan
to tell me.
versus EPA.
Whoa.
West Virginia versus EPA.
You know, you're here because you need money from us. So halt for the second. And wait for the questions and answer the question.
Well, I answered your question,
and you didn't
like my answer because you don't know what Loper Bright is. Because
he never raised his voice.
That'd be hard. Yeah.
Ever.
Ooh, man.
She wants to take Lee Zeldin down a climate change road, and he comes armed with the law, and buddy, that put her in an uncomfortable position, and you could watch it. Do you know what Loper Bright is? No, I don't. Maybe somebody does here.
Hey, man, brief time in Congress up there, almost every member had a legal aid, on staff that they paid. It's a little unfathomable that you can't understand if you're going to go into an EPA meeting with the two largest pieces of legislation or.
Well, and in fairness, this was an appropriations meeting where Lee Zeldin was there to present to Congress about what's going on with the EPA. But so many times these Congress people want to use it as a time for grandstanding. If we had stuck with it, you would have heard Lee Zeldin go, "You just like to talk into the microphone. You don't understand the law." Again, without ever raising his voice. The longer you pay attention, the more you recognize many, not all, but many of our elected officials at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level, while they do have an ability to win elections, they are not very smart at all.
From the Seabrook.com. Interviews, weather, sports, all right here, all morning long. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Got his big voices right. News, weather, sports. We got the weather. We owe you some news and some sports right now. Let's start with your news headlines this morning. A Brandon High School student was found dead in a lake over the weekend. Brandon Police Chief Brandon French said the body was found in a lake that is private near Marquette Road on Sunday. Victim has been identified as 17-year-old Noah Lambert. French said his department was notified about 2:30 that the team had jumped into the lake from an elevated height and could not be located by his friends. Authorities promptly responded to the scene, and with the help of a dive rescue team, they were able to locate Lambert's body and recover it. The path leading up to the lake is marked with no trespassing signs, but teenagers and young adults are known to frequent that area. As for the victim, Lambert was a sophomore at Brandon High School. School currently offering counseling services to his peers along with teachers and administrators impacted by his death. Just awful. I don't know that everyone has done it, but I feel like most at some point have had that, there's this spot where we can go jump into the water. There was a spot like that in Lafayette County.
This is the old quarry area, too, over there.
Bad deal. Such a bad deal. Prayers for his family. 2 suspects are in custody in connection with a Saturday night shooting in Starkville. Starkville Police Department announced on Sunday the arrests of Jontel Hughes and Jordan Barrett, both Starkville residents, each charged with attempted murder. Law enforcement responded Saturday night, late in the evening, to Maxwell Street near Lummis Drive in the Cotton District, where they found one person suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim, whose identity I don't think has still been released, was airlifted to a hospital for treatment, their current condition unknown. Starkville said the individuals knew each other prior to the shooting. The department added that it is not the first time that Hughes and Barrett have been arrested, though details of their earlier charges not immediately available, which is odd. Mississippi State's Police Department and Oktibbeha County's Sheriff's Office worked with Starkville Police Department in the investigation. Compounding the seriousness of this, it was Super Bulldog weekend, as most of you know, one of the biggest weekends of the entire year in terms of people being there. So a lot of people out and in the streets. The mayor of Starkville, Lynn Spruill, has encouraged careful measures going forward and has really taken a lot of criticism online, especially on social media. In the aftermath of the shooting, she said the city is considering additional security measures for the Cotton District, including potential mandatory checkpoints with bag checks and metal detectors. It's the primary nightlife hub in the city of Starkville. The Mississippi legislature recently decided to create a new authority tasked with eventual oversight of the city of Jackson's water system. Now that Governor Reeves has signed the bill into law, members of the authority's board are beginning to be named. The 9-member Jackson Metro Water Authority Board is expected to assume oversight of Jackson's water system as early as 2027. Members of the board must be appointed by Horn, the mayor of Jackson, Reeves, the governor of Mississippi, Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, Ridgeland Mayor Gene McGee, Byram Mayor Richard White, and another member jointly decided on by Horn and Reeves. City of Ridgeland was the first to announce its appointment. City engineer Paul Forster, selected by Mayor McGee and approved by the Board of Aldermen on April 22nd. John Horn has the most picks. He has announced those, did so on April 25th. Shirley Tucker, Austin Barber, and Daniel Walker. He also recommended that Augustus Leon Collins be the joint selection between the mayor and governor's office. Those appointments will have to be approved by the Jackson City Council. I would assume that would happen. Reeves, Hosemann, and White have yet to announce their appointments to the Jackson Metro Water Authority Board.
The ongoing adventure of Jackson Water.
Yeah. Kudos to those willing to serve on that board. My guess is that is going to be a bit of a thankless task. Ooh. But perhaps there is, with some real common sense leadership, an opportunity to redirect the future of Jackson Water. That would be wonderful. Time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort is your home for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Book your tee time for the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club today. 2 18-hole championship courses. You can play one, you can play the other, you can play both, the Oaks and the Azaleas. DancingRabbitGolf.com, DancingRabbitGolf.com to book your tee time online today. Governor's Cup is tonight. Mississippi State and Ole Miss in the annual meeting in Pearl. For years and years and years, it was the Mayor's Trophy. When that game was played at Smith Wills in Jackson, when it moved to Pearl, it became the Governor's Cup. 1998, I think, was the first one I went to in person. And gosh, probably been to 12 or 15 of those games through the years. The one I really, really remember, what year was Richie Harrelson? Or what years was he at Ole Miss?
I was in 98, so he was a grad assistant then. So it was in 98 is when I graduated. Yeah.
All right, so 95 is what? Would he have been on the 95 team?
I think he was. Because I think so. I know 94, though. Yeah, for sure. Because he's a year older than me.
I think it was 1995. I fell asleep, or I didn't really fall asleep. I was lying in bed listening to that on the radio, and that cat hit a bomb that has not landed yet.
Man, he was such a...
Ooh.
I love Richie, even to this day. Great coach, but what an awesome guy to have
Always
around.
Seeing him.
Man.
Just the best.
Yes, the
Just
bazooka.
the best.
The bazooka from Iuka.
And oh my, as Mississippi State had some big moments in that game through the years as well. It's coming up once again tonight. Two teams have already met in the regular season. About a month ago, Mississippi State sweeping the series in Oxford. Southern Miss headed to the Big Easy this evening for a meeting with Tulane and Uptown. Played the Green Wave last Tuesday night and won 5-4 in that ball game. Going to do it again tonight before getting back after it against ULM this weekend. Texas Tech transfer quarterback Brendan Sorsby, one of college football's top returning players, is checking into a residential treatment program for a gambling addiction. It's funny, I'm old enough to remember 2 years ago when the Cincinnati coaching staff didn't really love this guy as a quarterback. And then he had a really good year last year, and now he's worth $5-6 million in NIL at Texas Tech. The NCAA is investigating Sorsby's gambling, according to sources, as the organization forbids athletes from betting on both college and pro sports. Texas Tech says that it is committed to supporting Brendan through his recovery process and to ensure his long-term health and well-being. Sorsby allegedly bet on Indiana football while redshirting for the Hoosiers as a true freshman in 2022, a season in which he played in a single game. The bets, according to sources, were on Indiana to win. None came in a game in which Sorsby appeared. His gambling has not drawn the attention of law enforcement, nor has he been linked to anyone attempting to influence the outcome of a game. He just likes action.
Man, it's still illegal, though.
There's no timetable for treatment. Sources say that his situation is being treated as a mental health matter, and that Sorsby will be afforded all the time he needs. His decision as a high-profile college athlete to enter a facility to treat his gambling addiction while enrolled is unprecedented.
Yeah, you think maybe the fourth-string left tackle would get the same type of treatment?
Going to be interesting to see what the NCAA does with this.
I hope the NCAA puts out like a Kalshi bet on it, you know.
You can bet on the outcome of the NCAA's decision? I'm sorry, not bet. You can go to a predictive market for that?
Predictive. It's futures, yeah.
Former Ole Miss men's basketball coach Rod Barnes returning to Mississippi, this time to lead ICC. That announcement came yesterday. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
Got to know she's a sensitive cat.
Good morning from the Venable Glass.
As the sun rises, he has all the news you need. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, SuperTalk.fm, and the SuperTalk app.
Pleasure to be with you, that is. C-Spire text line open 601-879-4395. You heard the music. It means it's time for the Mississippi Lottery Update. Online at mslottery.com. mslottery.com. That's where you keep up with everything that is happening with the Mississippi Lottery. No jackpot winner last night for Powerball. $143 million for Wednesday night. Estimated cash value, $65 million. Mega Millions coming up tonight, $163 million for that one. Isn't it interesting? So you got 3 drawings a week on Powerball. And it's funny, like, watching Powerball catch Mega Millions as the jackpot grows at a faster rate. So Mega Millions can start out in front, and then maybe that's just me. I guess the fact that I look at the numbers every single day makes it possible to think about that. So Mega Millions, $163 million, $73 million for the estimated cash value. That drawing coming up tonight. No jackpot winner in last night's drawing. Lotto America grew to an estimated $23,540,000 with an estimated cash value of $10.7 million. It's the third largest in the game's history. Tickets are only $1 with the option to add the $1 All-Star bonus to multiply your non-jackpot winning prize, or easy match for another $1 for a chance to win instantly. The lottery's on the road announcing our final The Three Stooges bonus promotion winners live. Tune in to see where on this special edition Facebook Live starting at 10 o'clock sharp this morning. Follow the Mississippi Lottery on all of their social media platforms to stay up to date, all things lottery. That is your Mississippi Lottery update. So Rod Barnes is headed to Fulton. Going to be at ICC. He is replacing Darian Wilson, who was named the Coach of the Year in the MACCC this past year, after stepping down to become the associate head coach at Jackson State under new head coach Trey Johnson. Rod Barnes, a Satartia native, returning to the game after a one-season hiatus, best known for his time playing and coaching at Ole Miss, an All-SEC and All-America point guard with the Rebels from 1985 to 1988, later hired as an assistant coach at his alma mater before being named the head coach in 1998. And then you had one of the best seasons in Ole Miss history, the 2000-2001 campaign, when the Rebels won 27 games, the SEC West, and advanced to the Sweet 16. Rod Barnes, during that season, or in the aftermath of that season, named Naismith National Coach of the Year.
Sounds like a big hire to me, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Been out of Bakersfield for the last little while.
Well, and I haven't followed him as much since he left Ole Miss. Did he still coach to that same brand of defense, a lockdown D that he was so known for in his time?
Played a lot of D.
Played a lot of D, yeah.
Sure did.
Well, in Satartia, if you don't know where that is, it's close to Carter, Mississippi. Just
over in the neighborhood of Shaw, right?
It's a lot further south, close to Valley Park, and you know, it's that neck of the woods. But it's up against the Alluvian Ridge. Beautiful little area.
We're talking like Southwest. I got you.
It is beautiful area of the Delta, very unique, where you get this mountain, you know, that juts out behind you, and then as far as you can see, is as flat as it can be. One of the prettier settings there is.
There you go. Clearly, I did not know where Satartia was.
It shall be a little north.
A lot north.
Yeah, a little north.
Top 25 rankings from D1 Baseball. UCLA still number one, as they have been all year long. That's what 39-3 will get you. Then it's North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Texas, and Georgia. That's the top five. Mississippi State back into the top 10 this week. They get the number 10 ranking. Texas A&M at 7, Auburn at 8. Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers at number 9. Southern Miss bumps up to number 12. Ole Miss stays put at 17. Let's see, what do you got? Arkansas at 22, Alabama 24, Florida 25. A lot of SEC teams, but none in the top 3. And Southern Miss in a good spot there at number 12.
Some big games tonight, too.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty big games. Coastal's got a big one as well. I think they got North Carolina tonight.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho. Wait, where is that? Is that in Chapel Hill or is that in Conway?
I'll get it. 2 seconds. You do your thing for a sec. I have it right here.
All right. C-Spire text line open at 601-879-4395. C-Spire's got a deal for you. New and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today.
Coastal at North Carolina. Number 9.
In
going
Chapel
to
Hill.
number 2.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Tip of the cap to Southwest Airlines for their 250th anniversary themed paint job on one of their big, beautiful airplanes. It's got the quill font 1776 on the side of it. Man, it looks good.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Before you grab your keys, you've got the news that matters. Back to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi and the SuperTalk app.
Strange but not a stranger. I'm an ordinary guy. Burning down the house. Hold tight.
Wait till the party's over.
Hold tight.
We're in for nasty weather.
Good morning, 7 o'clock hour. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Today is April 28th, 2026, and we are glad to be spending part of the morning with you. Thanks for making us part of your routine. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Just so you know, this morning we will be joined by the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann. That's coming up in about 15 minutes. Government Affairs Manager with Chevron, Alan Sudduth, will join us to start the 8 o'clock hour. And the MEMA disaster program launches today. One of the authors of that bill, State Representative Clay Deweese, will join us at 8:30 this morning. So all of that on the way over the next couple of hours. So what's going on in Iran? I am fascinated. I think probably like you, I want the war in Iran to be over. Like, it needs to come to an end. It's ridiculous. But you are dealing with a group of people. You're dealing with a fractured leadership country, a country that is strapped for cash, that will jump in bed with anybody that will have them, Russia and China chief among them, all of those things. Despite what they are saying publicly, despite what Aragachi said to Vladimir Putin yesterday about the United States accomplishing none of its objectives, Iran has no leverage, right? They have no money. They are out of munitions. They have a stockpile of oil that they can do absolutely nothing with, to the point that they are finding old, out-of-condition, good-for-nothing oil tanks trying to store excess oil in. And all the oil in the world is of zero use if you can't sell it. And yet Iran is demanding that the United States lift the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has offered to end its chokehold on the strait in exchange for the U.S. lifting its blockade on the country and an end to the war. Two regional officials said this yesterday. Under the proposal, discussions on the larger question of its nuclear program would come later. President Trump seems unlikely to accept the offer. And why would he? The existing ceasefire keeps the U.S. and Iran in a fragile standoff over the strait. On a visit to Moscow, Iran's top diplomats and American leaders want to negotiate because they have achieved none of their goals. Abbas Araghchi met with Vladimir Putin as part of a trip that included a couple of stops in Pakistan where leaders are scrambling to reignite stalled talks between Tehran and Washington. Trump called off sending Witkoff and Kushner to Pakistan to completely negotiate. Said, we can just do it by phone. Nearly 3,400 people have been killed in Iran, at least 2,500 people in Lebanon, where Israel and Hezbollah fighting resumed 2 days after the Iran war started. Felt like Israel was looking for an excuse to rekindle its fight with Hezbollah. I'm not saying it's not a justified fight, but Israel a little trigger happy. Airlines worldwide have begun canceling flights as the war in the Middle East strains jet fuel supplies, pushes up oil prices. But when I say that Iran has no leverage, here's what I'm talking about. When you say Iran is going to release its chokehold on the strait if the United States removes its blockade, and we'll talk about the nukes later. The answer to that is no. No. The answer is no. And what leverage do you have, Iran? So the United States is in this spot right now where obviously there are people that very much want the war to end, and we want gas prices to come down, and we want our soldiers to come home. But those who choose not to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. What are you talking about? I've mentioned this a time or two along the way. Think back to 1991. You remember Operation Desert Storm? The goal of Desert Storm was not to take over Baghdad. It was not to dethrone Saddam Hussein at the time. The goal was to liberate Kuwait and to get Iraq out of Kuwait. And the United States, along with coalition forces, accomplished that very, very quickly. But they didn't finish the job. There was some international pressure. There was some thought that the United States was going to be looked at as imperialist if they continued to march and to try to overthrow Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And so what did they do? They stopped about 100 miles short of Baghdad. We had special operators who were far closer than 100 miles to Baghdad. There was a ceasefire in Operation Desert Storm on February 28, 1991, with 101st Airborne about 120 miles from the city. Armored columns 150 miles away with nothing between them and Baghdad. And we stopped. And what was the result? A dozen years later, we were back. Saddam Hussein did not become a good guy overnight. He did not become a good guy over a decade. Iraq dealt with some pretty serious economic issues, but what did Saddam Hussein do? He poured all his money into missiles, regaining the foothold of power, and we had to go back a dozen years later and take over Saddam Hussein, topple that regime. Military and political leaders, George H.W. Bush in office at the time, while getting advice from Dick Cheney and Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice and others, he stepped on the brakes. What was the goal of this particular incursion? The bombing of Iran, and then this go around with the war. Get rid of Iran's nuclear capability. You have to finish the job. And if you don't finish the job, a dozen years from now or so, we will be back. Somebody on the C-Spire text line says, we were looking for weapons of mass destruction. I am aware. I'm aware that was the impetus for this. It was on the heels of 9/11. We're talking about the second Gulf War conflict. But we weren't looking for weapons of mass destruction in 1991. It was about liberating Kuwait, but you could have finished the job then. Get a message here. It says, we were looking for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. I lost too many battle buddies for no reason. I understand. You wouldn't have been there in 2014, and you wouldn't have lost those battle buddies if we had finished the job in 1991 when there was no opposition. You can't just stop short. You can't say to Iran, yeah, we'll lift the blockade. You open up the strait. We'll figure out the nuke piece of it later. If the rationale for this was get rid of the nukes, and I'm not naive enough to think that that was the only rationale behind this issue with Iran, but if that was the primary objective, you have to achieve the objective. You are pot committed at this point, and you're pot committed against an opponent that is short stacked, that's got off-suited 2-3 as their hold cards. So he says Stormin' Norman was itching to finish it. Yes, Norman Schwarzkopf wanted to finish, but he didn't have the authority to do that. Somebody says Israel faces destruction every day. I'd be trigger happy also. I said, I'm not saying it's unjustified, them fighting with Hezbollah. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann is next.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Tuesday morning, April 28th. Thanks for joining us. This hour of the show is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you and your business. Learn more by visiting their website, mwgemployerservices.com. If you've got questions, they'd love to visit with you. Give them a call, 601-206-7966. The C-Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. Right now at C-Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet, plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see at cspire.com. C-Spire, customer inspired. I am pleased to be joined by the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Mississippi, Delbert Hosemann. He joins us in studio this morning. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for your time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. How are you today? You did a good job, by the way, on the radio this week. on TV this weekend.
Thank you. Saturday was a long day.
No
but,
joke.
Pretty good day of baseball as well, though.
I thought when we went to 14 innings, I thought we'd win, but whatever. That was when we let get away, as they say.
Those Georgia Bulldogs can swing it. Yeah. If you give them enough opportunities, it'll bite you.
Yeah, well, Mississippi State did really well.
So they certainly did.
As did Southern. So we may have 3 playoff teams here if things keep going.
I don't think there's any doubt we'll have 3 that are in it. The question is, will we be hosting 3 regionals?
That would be fantastic. And just to put my finance hat on, it's worth a lot of money for us to go host 9 other teams to come in from out of the state.
No question about that. Mixed reviews from many people about the legislative session that just completed. There are some who have gone with the idea that, they didn't get anything done in the legislature this year. And there are others who have said, well, yeah, hold on a second. They actually did. Some of that, I think, and I talked with Senator Harkins about this yesterday, some of that has to do with the ebb and the flow of the way a session works. We saw the heavy activity right out of the gates with the conversation surrounding school choice and a flurry of activity in the final couple of weeks of the session and then during the special session. What grade do you give to this year's legislative session?
Well, I think grades are given by the voters more than they are by us, but if you think we didn't do anything, you just didn't pay attention. In addition to the teacher pay raise, the universities, professors pay raise, junior college pay raise, we did a number of other matters. We tackled things like if you're younger than 18 and you commit a crime with a gun, you're tried as an adult. That's something that I've been after for a long time. Crime, people in this state are tired of finding people that are 15 or 16 years old shoot somebody or rob somebody or whatever, and then they're not tried as an adult, and they just basically skip free. So, yeah, we did a lot of things like that. The shield law, where we make our voter rolls go back and check against people that are here legally to make sure that we don't have people that are here legally voting in our elections. I think that's important. Something I did back when I was Secretary of State. So, no, we had a number of different things in addition to the ones that you see so often about teacher pay raise and those kinds of things. We did capacity raises. We, added on new money for new roads in Mississippi. Just a whole series of different things I think were good, not only just on education. So we had a pretty good year, I thought. There's some things I wish we had done, that still are bothersome. I wanted to do government reorganization. We passed where we were going to eliminate 17 of these commissions, and unfortunately that died in the House. It is the precursor of Senator Tyler McConnell is looking at other mergers and other ways to have government shrunk and be more efficient.
Is DPS the model going forward for shrinking the size of government?
That's
when you look
one
at
of
the way they've kind of rolled everything under one roof?
Yeah, that was one I thought that Sean Tyndall did well. We had, I think, about 11 different agencies out there. He rolled them into 4 and structured them better. That was a success for us, and that'll prove successful going forward. I have been very concerned about our ability in the cybersecurity area. We have not been as aggressive as we need to. As I explained to Sean and to other law enforcement officials and to the legislature, there's more money stolen over the internet than there is from any bank in Mississippi, so that's where we need to be devoting our resources. We have to upgrade our homeland security, our abilities to go track these individuals. But the other thing that when I went out there the other day, I like to go visit the state agencies. I learn a lot by standing there talking to them. So I went to Homeland Security the other day, and we had a long discussion, and they emphasized how quickly they let individual sheriffs and police departments and whatever know about scams. You get them on your phone. I've gotten 2 this last week. Right. They gave away when they said I hadn't paid any tolls. Well, we don't have any tolls in Mississippi, so it's pretty much bad. But there are occurrences, particularly where our seniors get ripped off by huge sums of money in their savings. And so as part of that, I want to develop a process in which we outreach to individuals, not just tell law enforcement and our attorney generals and whatever, but we outreach to individuals that these things are going on, particularly our seniors, to warn them about these scams that are going on virtually daily in Mississippi. So there are other things I want to do there. His government reorganization is very helpful. It may be a way forward. There's some others. We have too many licensing bureaus and too much red tape that goes with them. And a lot of them have less than 10 employees, and they're spread all over. So I think you'll see us address shrinking the size of government. And it has other things that go with that, Richard. When you do that, you lower the cost of government, which means we can continue to cut taxes. And there's a correlation. If government's less expensive, then we continue to cut taxes. So the reorganization of government applies both to the fact that everybody's time is valuable and every minute they spend touching government is something that costs them money. So we want to be minimum.
You mentioned earlier kind of putting your finance hat on when we were talking about baseball just a second ago. You say government gets smaller, you can continue to shrink taxes. But continuing to shrink taxes means less revenue to the state of Mississippi.
That's correct.
We've talked a lot in the past about the positive place that Mississippi is from a financial situation with money in the bank. But a lot of that money was spent this year, allocated through capital expense fund projects, but also with the teacher pay raise. That is an ongoing expense, not a one-time expense. Where is your level of concern about revenues versus expenses as we move forward over the next couple of years?
Well, we're constitutionally required to balance. So we're going to balance our budget every year, whoever's in whatever position in state government. So we're going to have to balance our position every year. We have taken the position that we balance, and we skipped a year. Remember, the House left last year without a budget, and the governor had to call us back in to get a budget. So we didn't spend very much money. So we had funds available for 2 years for certain capacity projects, fire departments, volunteer fire departments, keep our rates low on fire insurance for homeowners. There were a lot of different projects that hadn't been addressed in 2 years, and so they were addressed this year. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to have a balanced budget, because we're going to have one next year and the next year and the next year. So, no, we'll stay within our balanced budget. And the thing that I think I've emphasized is that we don't need to borrow money. With all due respect to my Democrat friends, I used to borrow money to make ends meet. We haven't done that, Richard. We have paid off, or will during my term, $1.4 billion of state's debt. About a third of the state's debt will be paid off. Now, I don't know that that's, so sexy one way or another, but I'm positioning Mississippi for us to be able to run our own government, balance our own budget with less infusion from the federal government, because their debt is so high. They're already starting. You see this with the Rural Health Initiative and these others. You'll see them withdrawing funds to us, like the SNAP benefit disaster that we've got going on. So those things happen to us, and so we need to be prepared, and the less debt, the better off we are. Just look at your own credit card. When you don't have any expense on your credit card, you're a lot freer to live your lives and spend your money on things that you want to. When you've got large credit card debt, you're already running interest up. We just got an increase in our rating. Our rating from the rating bureaus went up because we have less debt and we fixed the retirement plan. So in my long-term plan that I look at for the state, I'm looking at us being less debt, smaller government, less obligations outside of our regular obligations on education and security and whatnot. And I'm looking at less coming from the government, from the federal government.
Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann is my guest. We've got plenty to discuss as we continue the conversation this morning. We'll go back to the school conversation, because I want to, we talk about the teacher pay raise. There are a lot of things that were in that big omnibus House bill that ended up passed that both sides agreed on, but we also ended up with a decision that school choice kind of stopped dead in its tracks. What does that conversation look like a year from now, a couple of years from now? We'll start there on the other side of this break. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Seabrook.com.
Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross. Glad to have you along for the ride, and glad to be joined in studio this morning by the Lieutenant Governor, Delbert Hosemann. I always appreciate his time. Usually sits down for an extended conversation when we're able to visit. I appreciate that very much.
I work for you.
Well,
you and 3 million other people.
I was going to say, I don't think I'm the sole employer here. Let's go back to the school conversation, the education conversation.
Yeah.
That's where all of the buzz was leading into this session.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the big bill that came from the House. That died in committee in the Senate. Ultimately, you got to a point where some of the pieces of that bill from the House were things that the two sides were able to agree on. But at least one of the core issues, which was universal school choice, something that the governor has been for, that the speaker has been for, that the House was for, the Senate has said and continues to say, no, we're not for universal school choice. There are lots of pieces of that we can debate, but with the Senate's position being as firm, seemingly, as it has been, what does that conversation look like during the 2027 session?
Well, you have to go back. It was like one vote in the House to bring that out to the
out of committee, right?
Committee. Yeah. Well, one vote in the House to bring it on the floor over to the Senate. One vote difference, it would have never made it there. So it was very close, and a lot of Republicans voted against it in the House side. When it got to the Senate, our senators were inundated by talking to people back home, and some of them were in public schools, some of them were in private schools, some of them were homeschool, and it was overwhelming that they didn't want that. We passed a portability that I thought was very reasonable, where you can't hold a young man or woman back and they can go to another school, another public school, and I thought that was a good idea. And that failed on the House side of the margin. But I think going forward, there was virtually no support in the Senate. Maybe one senator, maybe two, I think, that had some leanings towards school choice. But the vote in the committee was 10-0 and on Republicans, and they were spread all over Mississippi. If you look at those particular ones that were in that meeting, they came from all over, from the coast all the way to North Mississippi. And there just was a universal feeling that we didn't want to do school choice. The Senate did not. So I anticipate that hasn't changed here in the last few months. I haven't heard anything from my senators. We've only left a couple of weeks ago. But I haven't heard anything like we want to bring that back up again. I just don't see a lot of support for it in the Senate. And it was not snuck up on or anything like that, because it was discussed beginning at the Neshoba County Fair and for months and months, and it was a primary thing for the House and whatnot. And our senators had a lot of time that they spent back in their home districts talking about whether or not they wanted to do school choice. And like I said, there were people against it across the entire spectrum. Now we'll see. As you know, sometimes people bring things up, and sometimes they fail miserably, and then 2 or 3 years later they pass. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. I think it'll be particularly important on how other states are handling this. And there are problems in other states with school choice, both from an economic standpoint, and then really, does it really move the needle from public to private schools? That's what's happening in Arkansas. So I think as we watch the other states around us mature, it may bring us to a better decision on how to handle it. But clearly there was no move on the Senate side, and it was very diverse on the House side. And I don't see that as something that'll be a forefront for coming year. But
obviously, the people of Mississippi vote to elect representatives for themselves in Jackson, right? The senators and the representatives. We've gotten several messages on the C Spire text line as you were answering that question that said, hey, put this on the ballot and let the people of Mississippi decide. You might be surprised by the outcome. Is there any way for you to measure the sentiment across the state beyond those anecdotal conversations of what Mississippians, the citizens of the state, actually want on this issue?
Well, I'll be out. I'm supposed to be a part-time employee, actually, but I go out immediately after the session. I've been out already in different places. I'll be all over Mississippi. I'll be in the Delta. I'll be in North Mississippi. I'll be in Hattiesburg. I'll be all over Mississippi talking to people about this. So I'll get another feel for what they think about it. And we can, I don't ever close a door on what people feel, but the best thing you can do is talk to your members of the Senate and the House and what they're hearing from home. And what I'm reporting to you is what they're hearing from home.
Right. The SNAP error rates. I went pretty hard after this a few weeks ago and got some pushback from people as well, and had some that said, hey, Richard, you don't have all of the information on this. I'm not sure what information I'm missing. So we've got the language in the One Big Beautiful Bill that outlines the penalty structure going forward, and we have the SNAP error rates for Mississippi, which are of a threshold that we're going to have to pay a 15% penalty on the benefits that come to the state. I don't know what other information there is. I don't understand, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, how we have allowed ourselves to get into a place where we are going to be on the hook, not to not receive $120 million, but to actually have to pay $120 million in fines to the government for having our SNAP rates out of whack. Help me understand better, because there's some that say I'm missing something.
Actually, you're not. You're directly on point. We're fixing to get clipped. Fixing to is an old Warren County term. We're fixing to get clipped for about $120 million and at maximum, and maybe, and more likely, at least $80 million in reimbursement for SNAP. And I remember one of our former governors saying, when 49 states do something different than you do, it's probably a clue. And so we're totally different from every other state.
Shout out Phil Bryant.
So when we come up with something like this, where we have, if you have more than $125 difference in a month, now somebody could be working, which hopefully they are, and they have overtime. We have a lot of overtime now because our economy is booming under President Trump. So our economy is booming. We may have overtime, and so they work overtime 2 or 3 months. Then that throws them over $125 off. To get the SNAP benefits, you have to remember you have to be making less than $20,000, or a family of 4 less than $40,000. Less than half of people in Mississippi that are eligible for SNAP actually get it. But when you go to the calculation everybody else does is every 6 months they check. So quite frankly, I'm not so much interested in whether I hope they make them $125 more or less, but I'd like to be able to report every 6 months. I think that's appropriate, particularly in light of the fact that President Trump said that's the way we're going to penalize you if you don't do it that way.
So why has it not changed?
Well, it didn't change because of the Senate. We wanted it to change, and the House killed it. We passed the bill, and Senator Sparks is exactly right. He was dead right about that. We passed our bill to do to a normal accounting like every other state does. We're not for people getting on SNAP benefits. We're for people working. But I'm also $80 or $100 million a year less because of the big, beautiful bill and the way President Trump has outlined it to us. For us to avoid that and not avoid that is crazy. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
But there's got to be some explanation that you've gotten from your colleagues on the House side as to why. Like there has to be, like there's no rational way to look at this and go, hey, this makes sense if there's not a why of some sort.
I cannot help you with that, and I wish I could. I can't come up with a real why. We clearly are very astute to keeping people off of this. Medicaid, we believe in people working. I do. I want people to work. This is a lifeline for people who are not able to work. For example, if you're an able-bodied person, you can only get three months of SNAP benefits in any 3 years. So we're being very careful, and I think it's being run to make sure people don't get on this thing that aren't entitled to. Like half of them that are entitled don't get any. So we've worked hard about keeping our facts right. But when the big beautiful bill came down, it came down headed at, for example, Alaska had 49% error rate. We've got 10.6% error rate. So these people in Alaska were just paying people everywhere. And so the president rightfully said, look, we're not going to allow an error rate greater than 5 or 6%. And if you do, we're not going to reimburse you for your expenses. I think he's right about that. So instead of following President Trump, we're off here in the Neverland. And I just am very frustrated with Rich. I know you are, and you should be. And Senator Sparks is dead right about this. We ought to have the normal approach that everybody else does. Or we just want to... That much money could affect us in so many different ways positively, from education to roads and bridges to crime fighting to economics to everything. You know, why am I giving that money away? And I have no reason for you to do that.
I think that's something that the people of the state of Mississippi should be really concerned about.
They should. That's too much money to have gone. When you're talking about $128 million penalty.
We'll take a time out, wrap things up with Lieutenant Governor on the other side of this break. Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann is my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday morning, April 28th.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
The coffee is hot, but the truth is even hotter. Mornings with Richard Cross. On Super Talk, Mississippi.
A few minutes left with Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
25 or 6-4.
I beg your pardon?
25 or 6-4.
He's talking about the song Chicago.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. Different people have different opinions about the most significant thing that was accomplished during the session this year. I think there's an argument to be made that the $100 million that was allocated for the new cancer center as part of the University of Mississippi Medical Center is the single most significant thing that happened during the legislative session this year. Am I off base on that?
Not really. The UMMC requested $100 million. They said they would raise $150 million if the legislature was able to give them $100 million. Long term, the percentage of people who get cancer in Mississippi is very high.
Right.
So it will infect tens of thousands of Mississippians that they will be able to get their cancer treatment here versus maybe going to Houston or some other location. The other part, a major part of that, I don't know was talked about as much, is the research capability for cancer. By having a cancer research place here, we have an opportunity to advance the knowledge of cancer in addition to treating the cure that we'll be able to do here that we weren't able to do elsewhere. No, I think if you talk about how many people are going to be affected over the next millennium, that cancer clinic will affect tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of people and positively. Sure. So it's a very big thing.
What is the location for construction there?
It's across the street from the University of Mississippi Medical Center, across State Street towards that stadium that's over there, Jackson State Stadium.
Is that the best place for it?
Yeah, I think so, because it's going to grow. What we've talked about. Look at the University's hospital. The core, you can't even find where it started.
Yeah,
I've
actually got the map pulled up right now, and the footprint, it's all packed in, and it's hard to even
you
see
can't even find
what.
They've added a hospital. Methodist has put on their rehab in there, and so you see all that stuff. This cancer clinic, too, will grow as it gets further into this. This is the preliminary part of it with parking and whatnot. There's just not really room on the university itself. There's one little corner left there on Lakeland Drive. If you recall, we've also built a new nursing school there and a new dental school there. The nursing school will be open this next year. And so they're running out of room, and there's not enough room if you think about how big this is going to be and how much expansion it's going to need. The only place to go really is across the street, I think.
So do you anticipate the stadium being taken up by this and going away at some point?
Eventually, the stadium needs to be closer to Jackson State or on the campus over there, one or the other. There have been a number of different plans to put it just south of the convention center, and I think those plans will mature here as we go forward. As the university expands out and its educational opportunities and health care opportunities continue to grow, sooner or later we're going to either need to fix the stadium, which has some problems with it, or we're going to build a new one.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I ask that because I'm curious about what's going to happen with the old DPS headquarters. I mean, I kind of think about that corridor there along I-55, and I think about what the tower, the Sanderson Tower, looks like there as part of Batson. Just how incredible that building is, how inviting it looks. And I wonder, like, would it make sense for that cancer center right there to kind of be like this crown jewel beacon saying this is our place?
Well, I think the University of Mississippi needs to come up with that, but my answer is no. That land, we've already entered into a contract to tear down the Highway Patrol building. It needs to be torn down. There's about 7 acres there. It drifts downward to a creek, so there's not billable 7 acres there unless you cover that whole creek up and whatnot. And it's away from the university itself. As you know, the Veterans Hospital is in between there and the university, so there's no real connectability there. So it appears to me, or I would think, that it would be better suited to have a mixed use where you had places for young people to come back to Jackson, Mississippi and live when they come out of college. I consider that whole park and that area to be part of Fondren and part of Belhaven and part of Millsaps and the quality of life we want to have for young people to come back to Jackson. We desperately need to have a place for them to come back to. And that particular piece of property is not sufficient for a world-class cancer clinic, which will expand without question.
Last thing for you, and it's something that I've asked you about in the past, and you haven't been ready to answer. There are a number of people who have submitted their name officially for the governor's race in 2027. You certainly know that your name has been out there a lot. You going to run for governor?
Well, we'll see here. We're towards the decision process. I'm not being coy about that.
You are a little.
Well, I don't know. You start with the big three, which is the good Lord, your family, and then the voter, and in that order, those decisions will be made. We certainly have. We got all of our education bill this year. In the end, we got our 3rd grade reading grade increased to 8th grade. Our reading will be better. We got all of our work. We still have work to do on chronic absentee rate. We got our math in. We got a civics class in. There's a lot of education things that I want to do, and I want to continue to work on those this coming year. So I want to focus on those a little bit. But time is ticking now. We're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. And I've been real pleased as I go out across Mississippi. People seem to think we're doing a pretty good job, at least most of them.
Lieutenant Governor, thank you for your time, as always.
It's good to see you, Richard. I really appreciate your work every day to keep people informed. These are
your home on your smart speaker, phone, computer, and FM on your radio. Everywhere you listen, you'll find the voice of Mississippi. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome in to the 8 o'clock hour, a fast Tuesday morning, the 28th of April, 2026. You've got it locked into Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances, our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Happy to welcome our next guest this morning. He lives on the coast and works with Chevron, government affairs manager with Chevron Products. And Alan Sudduth joins us right now. It's kind of going through and looking at Alan's background. And you want to talk about someone who has covered the state of Mississippi, an undergraduate degree from Mississippi State, a law degree from Ole Miss, and an MBA, I think, from William Carey as well. You've got the bases covered.
I really enjoyed college. I spent a lot of time in it.
Are there days where you're like, if I could just go back for one more degree, that might be a good plan?
Not many days. Not many days.
Alan, I
enjoy what
appreciate
I'm doing today.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, and I feel like you probably have your hands full as well. Working with Chevron, such a massive presence on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and such an important partner within the business community in Mississippi. But so much going on when we think about refineries and major gas companies. The work that's going on with oil and importing oil. What does your day-to-day look like?
First of all, thank you for having us on today. Glad to talk about this. And you're right, it's a topic that's top of mind to a lot of folks right now. That's with the supply issues going on in the Middle East, with Chevron's long-term 100-plus year presence in Venezuela, and with this refinery's ability to process heavy sour crudes like Venezuelan crude, we've really been spotlighted in a good way. Not just this Chevron refinery, but also the state of Mississippi. Our energy policies and the ways that we support business here allows us to operate, allows us to be able to be a part of providing affordable and most importantly, reliable energy to this part of our region.
So where is the bigger effect right now? I mean, there's so many eyes that are focused on the Middle East, on the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade, the closure, the stranglehold, however you want to describe that, and that ongoing conflict. But we're only a few months removed. It was right around the first of the year where Maduro was removed in Venezuela, and this policy change kind of went into place in terms of more Venezuelan oil coming to the United States. So is the bigger issue for Chevron right now in the Middle East, or is it closer to home in Venezuela?
The bigger issue, I think, for the industry is the Middle East because of the volume of supply that's been taken off the market. It's a global commodity, crude is, so it affects all of us. We're all vying for the same commodity, the crude that we all need to make fuels. However, having Venezuelan crude come up and the administration giving us the opportunity to process it here, just the proximity and the type of crude it is has made our situation on the coast a little less severe than, say, in other areas. The prices have gone up because of the supply-demand differential, but there's some parts of the country, some parts of the world that are actually limited with crude or maybe even going without. So of the problems to have right now in this environment, we are here, particularly in the southeastern part of the United States and the eastern part, are benefiting from the fact that Venezuelan crude is coming back online and we're able to process it.
Has there been any effect on the Chevron refinery there in Pascagoula based on the Middle East, or has production and processing overall been up because of Venezuela?
Well, crude prices have gone up, so sure. That's a cost to our business. But we have been we've been able to get crudes at the appropriate levels. We process about 370,000 barrels of crude per day. I'd like to put that into context. Not everybody knows. I didn't know much about what a barrel was, but if you consider, as far as trying to figure out what 370,000 barrels is a day, if you took a container that was the size of a football field, if you need to fill it up, it'd fill up to 33 feet high. That would be 370,000 barrels of crude. So that's a lot of crude that we process each and every day, which means we need a lot of it.
So if you walled off a football field and turned that into a 3.5-story building and filled it, that's the amount of crude oil that you process daily?
Yes, that's right.
Wow. Feels like a lot of oil.
So, because it is. We're supplying millions of gallons of gas to hundreds of service stations and convenience stores throughout the southeast. Mississippi, we're a major supplier of fuels, and particularly jet fuel, to the Panhandle and western side of Florida. So that we're having to get out fuels to a lot of people every day, and so that requires a lot of crude every day. The Central and South America has a good bit of crude availability. The Gulf has crude production is up domestically. So where we are proximity-wise, we're able to access a good amount of crude. And it's crude that we're designed to build, to process. Heavy sour crudes, or like the ones that come from Venezuela, are what this refinery in particular has been, we've invested in over the years to be able to process. So we've got the availability, we've got the proximity, we're having to pay a bit more for it, like everybody else is, but we're able to provide those products to our part of the world.
Forgive me for what in your world is probably an elementary question, but I don't have a petroleum engineering degree, so I'm learning on the fly here.
I don't either. That's the one degree I don't have.
Okay. Well, see, maybe there is an opportunity for you to go back to school for one more degree. Crude comes out of the ground, whether it's in the Gulf or in Central or South America, and it makes its way to the Chevron refinery in Pascagoula. What happens then?
We heat it up. The first fundamental thing we do is boil the oil, as some say.
Okay.
And as you heat it up, it distills. We have distillation columns that heat it up, and it separates. At the hotter you get it, there's the lighter end products that rise to the top of the column, and then the intermediate products are at different levels within the distillation column based on their heat. Then we have these trays that the product has. It's a vapor type light in. It settles on those trays, and then it's shipped out or it's piped out for further processing. But that's how we the initial first pass of what you do with crude is you heat it up to separate it into kind of general products, your chemicals, the lighter end products, and you've got your distillates and your fuel type products, and you've got what we call residuum at the very bottom. Those are sent out for further processing to be more refined into the products that we use every day.
So, and I guess I'm trying to use a small number just for understanding. If a barrel of crude comes in and it gets heated up, how many gallons are in a barrel?
42.
All right, so 42 gallons of oil come in a barrel, of crude come in a barrel. Of that 42 gallons, how much gets used, and how much is waste out of that?
Great, all of it.
Really?
In fact, some like to talk about the fact that we actually inject some intermediate products into the process. So we talk about we get about 45 gallons of fuel and products out of 42 gallons of crude. Huh. But of that, we have all the way up to the lighter end products and the chemicals provide chemical feedstocks that we sip out. I'd say the middle part is what we make into the products that we're most familiar with, the fuels, jet fuel. We make premium base oil feedstocks here, and that go into premium base oil products like motor oils and lubes. And then at the bottom is this, what I was referring to earlier, particularly for our heavy sour crudes, it's called residuum. And it's the heaviest part of this crude that's left over after we've separated out of the lighter products. We take that through a unit called the coker that we extract even the last remaining, if you will, fuel and available products out of it. And what you're left with there is a kind of a coal-looking substance called petroleum coke, and that is shipped out overseas for furnace-heated stuff. So we use that. Even the things we extract. A sour crude is a crude that has sulfur in it. So one of the things we have to do is extract the sulfur out. We actually sell the sulfur on the open market as well.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. You got time to hang through the break and talk a little more?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Alan Sudduth, Government Affairs Manager with Chevron Products Company. We're going to take a quick time out. We've got more with him and more with you on the other side of this break.
From the Venable Glass.
Hi, fellow citizens. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Right here, right now.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross rolls on with you, presented by Community Bank. Alan Sudduth is my guest, Government Affairs Manager and Public Affairs Manager with Chevron Products Company. Which is not exactly the same as Big Chevron, right?
That's right. There's subdivisions within any organization, corporation, and this is on the side that refines the products and gets the products out to market.
Okay, very good. I want to ask you about Venezuela. You mentioned a 100-year relationship that exists between Chevron and the country of Venezuela. In the immediate aftermath of the Maduro removal, President Trump brought leaders from a number of oil companies to the White House and said, hey, we want to see investment. There were some that pushed back on that a little bit because of instability, questions about what the future might look like in terms of who was going to be in charge. Was it different for Chevron because the relationship already existed?
The short answer is yes. We had been there for 100 plus years. We had remained there even through several of the leadership changes, and we had less. We were already there, already set up, already operating, and able to at a much less capacity than what we had, say, decades ago. But we were able to kind of start up a little quicker and be a little more flexible. Because we were there and operating.
What did that look like for Chevron as a company? Because we know that, especially under the Maduro regime, it was unsafe for lots of people. It was unsafe for Venezuelans who lived there. Certainly, it was unsafe for those that were not native Venezuelans to live there. So, in terms of operationally, how did that work with so much instability and violence under the previous regime?
Generally, I would say, of course, not having experienced it directly, I can tell that folks who've been there talked about the fact that Chevron has always been about safety for its employees. And so we implemented a lot of safety measures, had a lot of safety personnel on the ground that helped to keep our people safe and the assets safe there. And I think I would speculate, knowing how Chevron operates everywhere else, particularly here in the United States, that we invested in the Venezuelan people. We built relationships with them such that allowed us to have a meaningful relationship with the community in which we operate. And between our security and safety measures and relationships we built, genuine, authentic relationships, I think that allowed us to remain there and operate, even in a limited capacity.
I also wonder if, because of what Chevron was providing for Venezuela, if it's almost like there was no, don't mess with them because they matter to us, regardless if we all agree and how the country's being run or who's in charge or whatever, that relationship was so important that there was almost like a don't touch them piece of it. And I don't know the answer to that question at all.
Yeah. I would not be able to speculate about what the thought processes are of the governments and the regimes in Venezuela, but that would not surprise me. Crude oil is necessary. It certainly generates revenue, but it also provides products folks have got to have. So energy is so valuable to us. I'd say the country itself of Venezuela and to the surrounding areas that. I got to believe everyone would recognize that having an energy company operating is good for everybody, including themselves.
Yeah. What's it been like in the 4 months since Maduro was removed? In terms of, you talked about at one point during that 100-year window, production was high. That backed off a little bit, so it may have been more limited. Do you see it ramping back up to a decades or multi-decades ago level?
I'm not sure what the future holds because, as you noted, the instability of kind of what's going on there, the dynamics. But we've been able to ramp up production somewhat since the Maduro incident. We've gotten up to about 400,000 barrels a day that Chevron is producing in Venezuela. That has related into we can now that we're in compliance with U.S. Rules and regulations, the U.S. refineries, including the Pasco refinery, are able to process that Venezuelan crude. So we're up to about 100,000 barrels a day on average of Venezuelan crude that we're processing right here in Pascagoula. We're also processing about 50,000-ish of that in our El Segundo in Los Angeles, California, our refinery there. So we're about 150-ish of that 400 is being refined by Chevron crude by Chevron refineries. The other remaining is being used by other refiners here, primarily on the Gulf Coast.
The 300,000 plus barrels a day that is being processed on the Gulf Coast that you referenced a second ago, is that at full capacity for what the refinery is capable of, or can you go to 400, 500, 600,000 a day with the current infrastructure?
Yeah, we try to operate this thing as close to capacity as possible, as safely as we can. Sure. So that 370 is right there near the limits. Folks need fuels. Folks need our products. We're running this refinery 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so there's not really an opportunity to kind of back off or do less. We're running pretty much max capacity all day long, every day.
How long has the refinery been in Pascagoula?
We started construction in 61, and it began operating in 63.
And then have there been additions along the way to increase capacity and grow the site there, or is it kind of as it existed in the early 60s?
No. When we first built this in 63, it processed about 100,000 barrels a day, and that was light sweet crude. Okay. The kind of the less viscous, thinner, and less things like sulfur in it. Those lighter, sweeter crudes that we get kind of. But over time, we've invested in units like the coker, like a sulfur unit that allows us to process pretty much any crude we can bring into this refinery, including those heavy sour crudes. But it was 100,000 barrels a day of light sweet. Today it's about 370 of heavy sour and anything in between.
Alan, if I said I'm going to task you with being in charge of opening a brand new refinery, we've got the space here on the Gulf Coast. I want to invest the dollars that it takes to do this. What would it cost to build from scratch today a new refinery that has a capacity that's somewhere close to what you're doing?
Several billion.
Okay.
But there's a lot to get there. One is the environmental conditions, environment that exists today is a lot different than when we were building refineries hundreds or plus years ago. This refinery at 60 plus years old is one of the newer refineries, more recently built. That it's just so difficult to get through the environmental issues to even get that built. The other part is you need regulatory stability to get the return on investment of that. If you're going to put billions of dollars into something, like we learned during COVID and when we had the demand destruction, when folks started shutting down refineries, when the opportunity came, when crude prices started going back up and people started buying more gas, and we started the capacity started, the demand started outreaching the supply, folks were saying, well, let's get these refineries back online, and folks were selling them. The reason they were selling them was because they looked down the line. They said that what the cost was just to get them back online wasn't worth the investment. They weren't going to get that investment back over a long period of time because of the uncertainty of certainly the administrative outlook at that time and kind of the outlook for the oil and gas industry. Folks were saying it doesn't make sense for us to invest that kind of money. So investing in a new refinery today is even more challenging because you don't know what the future holds, particularly from a regulatory standpoint.
So if you knew with great certainty, not to make this overly political, that Lee Zeldin was going to be running the EPA for the next decade and that you were going to have an administration that was pro-reduced regulations, then maybe it makes sense to make that kind of a long-term investment and plan. But with the uncertainty of who's going to be next and what that appetite's going to be, it's hard to make that investment?
The latter part is certainly true. The refining was kind of at a good steady state as far as demand, supply and demand. We are looking to make vehicles more efficient. There are fuels that are able to help us run longer, hybrid vehicles. A lot of things that folks are investing in technology has allowed us to extend the length of a gallon of gasoline to where, as demand kind of marginalizes, particularly here in the United States, the refining capacity is capable. We just don't need to be losing refining.
Sure.
So whether it makes sense to build a new refinery today may be, there'd be several factors involved.
Yeah. Alan, I can't thank you enough for your time. I hope we can visit again soon. Really fascinating conversation, and wish you all the best.
Really enjoyed it, Richard. Thanks for all you do, and hope you have a great rest of the day.
You as well. Alan Sudduth from Chevron Products. We'll take a time out. Representative Clay Deweese joins me next.
From the Seabrook.com. This is where Mississippi wakes up smarter. Headlines, context, and the conversations that matter most. Mornings with Richard Cross, right here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and Supertalk TV, presented by Community Bank. I'm just going to be honest with you. I like my chair. I like my bookcase backdrop. But, Lance, there might be a future in this couch.
I love the couch, man. I could nap on that thing really easily.
Well, I won't say that I do it every day, but it happens fairly regularly. Clay Deweese, Representative Clay Deweese joins me, and one of the things that the legislature worked on a lot, especially toward the end of the session, was getting across the finish line the loan program, the disaster loan program for cities and counties. There were, if I remember correctly, Mr. Representative, some bumps along the way, but you got it to the finish line. You and your colleagues did in conjunction with MEMA. And today is the day that goes live. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right, Richard. As always, thanks for having
Good morning.
us. Good morning to you as well. And I do like the couch. This is kind of nice. Richard's so kind to let me come over to his house and to the studio and do this program. And normally we're sitting over there behind this computer screen, kind of
little less snuggly over here.
Yeah, I've never been invited. I've never been invited.
Yeah, Richard, thanks again. This is a product that we worked on for a long time in the legislature after the storm, Winter Storm Fern, that came through and did so much devastation to our northern counties. We worked on this loan program for a long time. If you'll remember, it's $125 million that goes to our cities and counties through House Bill 1646. Today is the day that the application process starts. And I guess this is more of a public service announcement more than anything today for us. Just letting the public know, letting our cities and counties know that today it opened actually, 10 minutes ago, 8:30. The application process opened online. The way to do that is to go to www.msema.org. msema.org. The process is very easy. I actually was walked through the process yesterday. Even I could figure it out.
Okay.
So these cities and counties and county administrators should have absolutely no problem. They can apply for these loan funds that will cover the federal disaster assistance, 75% of the total cost. This is not a first come, first serve loan product. This is it's been prorated out based on the jobs that have been submitted into the system as of April the 27th. Again, it opened today at 8:30. It will close April the 30th of 2027. So you have a year to go apply for these loans. And then there will be no loans that are issued after July 1st, 2027. So something we're very proud of. Glad to get across the finish line. Thank you to MEMA for their help. The speed in which they did this, I think it was 15 days from the time the governor signed the bill until we have a $125 million loan product that is ready to go out today for our cities and counties, offering the relief that is so badly needed.
All right, so $125 million. I suppose first question, we know that the expense related to Winter Storm Fern is massive. It's different for different cities and different counties in terms of recovery. Is $125 million enough in terms of seed money in this fund?
Great question. We believe so. MEMA was estimating this based on the total cost of the the disaster. And then remember, this is a revolving loan fund, so this money is coming back to us. This is simply helping them the cities and counties cash flow until they are reimbursed by FEMA. So we think that this will be enough, being that it's a revolving loan. Very hopeful that the Trump administration and FEMA can get us the money back out quickly to replenish the loan fund as we move forward.
So this is almost, I don't know if I'm going to describe this the right way, almost a bridge loan for cities and counties. So let's use, we're sitting in Oxford, so let's use Oxford as an example. Let's say that there are $20 million in expense that Oxford is expecting to be reimbursed by the federal government through FEMA funds. So this would be a way to borrow that $20 million to pay the cost associated with debris removal or whatever, that then Oxford would pay back to the fund as they are reimbursed by FEMA. Is that process right?
That's correct, Richard. They will be able to borrow the money from the state. The money won't actually go back to the city of Oxford. It will actually come to MEMA, and MEMA will recognize that loan has been paid off by the city.
So they'll zero that out on a spreadsheet.
That's correct. That is correct.
What are the needs that you have heard from cities and counties in Northwest Mississippi? I mean, I just randomly grabbed $20 million as a number. I mean, are there going to be a lot of places that ask for $100,000 and some that ask for $100 million?
Sure.
I don't know.
It will vary county to county based on the severity of the damage to each area. We know that obviously you and I are sitting in Oxford. I drove over here this morning. There's tree limbs still laying on the sides of the roads. Debris removal is going to be the most expensive cost for sure. There will be other things, damage caused to your streets and your roads from these trucks that are driving across there. That could be covered as well. So this is a long process. It's not just debris removal. We do know that debris removal is probably the most expensive part of it. So that's what we were really trying to get this money out as quickly as we possibly could to make sure that the bulk of this expense was covered when the cities and counties needed it the most.
Is there any guess as to how quickly the money comes from FEMA in terms of reimbursement?
I don't know exactly. I think it's going to vary case by case. I know that we've had some counties and cities that have already borrowed some money from a local lender maybe, and they have gotten their FEMA reimbursement payment, and they've gone and paid those loans. We hope as quickly as possible, but we don't have any gauge on how quickly that'll be.
One of the, let me be careful how I say this. One of the points of contention that existed was what the interest rate was going to be. Can you explain where we landed on interest? Because for the initial dollars, there's no fee, right, for cities and counties to borrow. Is that correct?
That's right, Richard. For anything that is FEMA approved, it is a 0% loan. So if you borrow money and your project was approved by FEMA, then there is no interest on that loan. Anything that is not approved by FEMA, if you've borrowed some money and your project is not approved by FEMA, which we hope there are very few, if any of those, the interest rate will be 3% annually on that loan for anything that's not FEMA approved.
Which is probably a better rate than you can get at a bank or anywhere else at this point. That was kind of the point of all of this, right?
That's correct. I would think you're correct on that. I don't know exactly what the banks are lending at right now, but I would think this will be a little less than that.
You mentioned 75% earlier, so I feel like there are people that maybe don't know exactly what that means. I'm just going to use round numbers to make this easy. So let's use $10 million as a baseline. If a city has a $10 million claim to FEMA, then the federal government is only going to be on the hook for 75% of that, but the entire $10 million has to be accounted for, right?
That's correct. If you'll remember when we've walked through this before, federal government is responsible for 75, well, I'm not going to say responsible, we'll pick up 75% of that FEMA-approved project. 25% is left to be paid. The way that it's structured, the state will pick up 12.5% of that, and the local government will pick up the other 12.5%.
Is that a good policy? I mean, I think people would use the idea of skin in the game. You know, you're not trying to reach. It doesn't entice fraud if 12.5% of whatever you ask for is going to be your responsibility. Is that something that makes sense? or should the state be picking up all 25% that's remaining?
I think it's this is just personal opinion. I think it's something that probably does make sense to make sure that they're to reduce fraud. I would suppose it seems expensive for sure. 12.5% of $10 million is a lot of money, especially on some of our smaller cities and counties that have suffered this extreme damage. That's out of their budget that wasn't accounted for going into the start of the year. I'm sure they're borrowing from local lenders, and we do thank our local lenders for helping all they can as well through this process, as we have to cover, the other 12.5%.
Two quick questions before we wrap things up. In terms of approval for these loans, is it like if a person goes and they're running a credit score and wondering about ability to repay, or is this, hey, if you can get this expense approved by FEMA, then you can be approved for this loan?
Well, again, Richard, you've got to be in one of the 36 affected counties that was in, and you have to have a program that is in the FEMA project list already to be reimbursed. So, and if you'll remember in the loan program, I guess the cities and counties, their collateral, I would say, is their sales tax revenue. That comes back. So there is a little skin in the game. Richard, before we go, I do want to hit
disaster recovery centers
very, very quickly. If you'll remember, this was all public assistance. The governor petitioned the Trump administration for individual assistance, and fortunately we were granted that from the Trump administration. We thank the governor and the Trump administration for that. These disaster recovery centers opened up yesterday. I know you have a list on your website, and we'll try to get that out as well, where these recovery centers are. We encourage individuals to go and visit these centers to see what you may be eligible for as far as individual assistance is involved with the storm and damage caused by the storm to your home or things related to the storm. So we encourage you to do that. We'll try to get that information out. I know MEMA is as well, and I know you have it on your website. So please go by these disaster recovery centers and see what you may qualify for.
Yeah, you can check out that story from the SuperTalk Mississippi news team at supertalk.fm if you want to see those sites. I think there are 5 or 6 of them
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Last time with you on this Tuesday morning, the 28th of April. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross. Lance, I think we covered some ground today.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the Lieutenant Governor, Alan Sudduth, Representative Deweese, kind of in conjunction with MEMA to make sure that we get the information out there. In displacing myself from my normal spot, I realized I just talked right into the break a second ago. So my apologies for that. I do want to give you the locations we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the disaster recovery centers, and this is for individual assistance. We talked about the public assistance piece, and that's for cities and counties and what has been affected there, but the federal government, FEMA, approved individual assistance in Mississippi as well. So MEMA is administering that in conjunction with FEMA. And I didn't know the answer to this yesterday. So we have disaster recovery centers and disaster survivor assistance centers. I'll just tell you a secret. They're the same thing. One just is longer than the other. So the recovery centers in some of the areas that were most that were affected the most during Winter Storm Fern, you've got these in Alcorn County, Benton County, Lafayette County, Lafleur County, Panola County, and Yazoo County. The assistance centers, and these were described to me as like pop-up shops. I don't know if you've ever gone to one of those restaurants where they just pop up for a weekend or whatever. That's the idea there. Calhoun County, DeSoto County, Grenada County, Holmes, Humphreys, Tate, and Tishomingo. If you want exact directions, exact locations for where those are, you can go. There's a story that JT and the news team worked on yesterday. The headline for that is Disaster Recovery Sites Opening. Click on that story. You can see the locations. The individual assistance is it's pretty broad. And if you individually in your home had significant damage that led to, I don't know, a tree limb falling on your car, or you had this massive freezer where everything in it rotted and became foul because you didn't have power for 2 weeks. I'm just using those as random examples. Just go talk to them. No guarantee that that's something that's going to be covered, but it might be. And it would be worth the conversation, worth the effort to figure that out. In terms of that loan program being in place, there's a lot of credit that goes to both the House of Representatives and the Senate. They worked really, really hard to get that across the finish line. There was a little back and forth with the governor's office to make sure that that program was what everybody thought it was going to be. Turned into hopefully a home run for cities and counties who are dealing with some pretty significant financial strain all across North Mississippi. Nearly half the state affected by this disaster. If you need more information, you can reach out to us on the C Spire text line. We'll try to direct you to the right places. 601-879-4395 is the number for that. Interesting conversation with the lieutenant governor this morning. I don't know how to ask any more directly than I did, are you running for governor? And he said, well, I'm not trying to be coy, but he was being coy, but that was at least an answer. The answer coming somewhat soon from Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann as to whether or not his name will be one of the ones that will be in that Republican primary. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I thought that was interesting. Said his 3 points of reference on that were the Lord, his family, and the voters in that particular order. So said he would continue to work through that decision. Also, a lot of conversation about what they did accomplish and some areas that they want to look to 2027 as he begins to make his way all across the state. And if you missed the conversation that we had with Alan Sudduth this morning from Chevron, I hope you'll go back and listen to it. That was not an interview where there was this just tons of breaking news. But if you have a fascination with or a curiosity about the refining process, about what that Chevron refinery looks like and how it operates in terms of on the Gulf Coast there in Pascagoula, the relationship that they have with Venezuela, the history of that relationship, what is happening in the Middle East and how it's affecting prices and processing in South Mississippi. We covered all of that. I thought, Lance, I don't know if you learned anything there or not. You're smarter than I am. I certainly learned a lot there and thought Alan was just incredible.
Man, I traded oil forever and thought I knew a lot about oil until I listened to Alan, man. That was awesome.
He said 370,000 barrels a day. There are 42 gallons in a barrel. If you're trying to figure out how much that is that they process at the Chevron refinery in Pascagoula on a daily basis, put a wall around a football field, build it 3.5 stories high, and then fill it with oil. That happens every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross. Glad to have you along for the ride, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. We are back with you tomorrow morning. Hope you have an outstanding Tuesday.
SuperTalk Mississippi Media Production.